What if I told you that in the summer of 1919, white mobs attacked black communities in over 30 American cities, burning homes, destroying businesses, and killing hundreds of people? And what if I told you that black veterans who had fought for democracy in World War I came home and had to fight for their lives in the streets of Chicago, Washington, D.C., and Elaine, Arkansas? This isn't just about riots. This is about organized racial terrorism that swept across America after World War I. A season so bloody that civil rights leader James Weldon Johnson called it the Red Summer. But here's what they didn't tell you. Black communities fought back. For the first time in American history, black people organized, armed themselves, and defended their neighborhoods. And that terrified white Americans even more. Now, before I tell you the story of the Red Summer of 1919, the season when America burned and black Americans said never again, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We're building a community of truth tellers who refuse to let these stories of racial violence and resistance be forgotten. Of all the unmentioned events regarding Black history, this was one that I had not heard of until recently. I knew of the struggles of African Americans. I knew of the struggles that Black American veterans had faced. For example, the blinding of Isaac Woodard. However, that happened in 1946 during World War II. The Red Summer took place 2 decades, 27 years prior to the World War I era. When I think of this happening in over 30 cities across America, in all transparency, it angers me. America boasts about what she has built. She celebrates the patriots of her past heroes, yet she refuses to have the discussion about her assault upon American citizens for no other reason than not wanting for them to be accepted as Americans because of the color of their skin. We refuse to have an honest discussion about how we treated true patriots if they were not white. To this day, we refuse to discuss how that kind of behavior has shaped the false character of this country, which I'm convinced leads to the gross lack of understanding that supports the racial divide that we witness today. It's things like this that lit a fire in me to create my Unlocking Black History YouTube channel, especially since our government officials have told us and are exercising actions to attempt to erase Black history. Being a career veteran myself, I've heard about General Pershing. There's a movie about Sergeant York, but why isn't there any reference to the Red Summer? Those Black people were citizens. Those Black people were patriots too. The Red Summer stands out in American history because of its scale and geographical reach. Racial violence occurred in cities such as Chicago, Washington, D.C., Omaha, Elaine, Arkansas, and dozens of other locations. But here's what makes the Red Summer different from earlier race massacres. Unlike earlier racial violence where Black communities were defenseless, in 1919, Black communities in several cities organized to defend themselves. Black veterans who had just returned from fighting in Europe armed themselves and fought back. This marked a significant shift in how racial violence unfolded. And white America wasn't prepared for Black people who refused to die quietly. To understand the Red Summer, you have to understand what America looked like in 1919. The end of World War I in 1918 brought significant changes to American society. Nearly 4 million U.S. soldiers returned home, many expecting economic stability and respect for their service. At the same time, industries that had expanded rapidly during the war began slowing down, leading to job shortages and labor tension. One of the most important social shifts of this era was the Great Migration. Beginning around 1916, millions of Black Americans moved from the rural South to northern and Midwestern cities in search of better job opportunities and to escape segregation and racial violence. Cities such as Chicago, Detroit, New York saw a dramatic increase in their Black population within a short period of time. While the Great Migration offered hope to many Black families, it also intensified racial tensions, housing shortages, competition for jobs, and entrenched racial attitudes led some white residents to view Black newcomers as rivals rather than neighbors. On March 26, 2016, Donald Trump was interviewed by a reporter from the New York Times. The reporter asked Trump when he thought America was great, in which he replied, the era of the industrial expansion. So let me be clear. African Americans, Native Americans, and immigrants faced systematic exclusion from well-paid jobs during that era. They were confined to low wages, dangerous labor, segregated workplaces, separate facilities, dead-end rows, and exploitative systems like sharecropping, while white workers, often immigrants, gained footholds, with the Black communities experiencing wealth decline, residential segregation, and hear me on this, vastly unequal access to opportunities, despite industrial growth. This information is not to frame your thought to expect a handout. It's not. Nevertheless, do not ever allow anyone else to ever tell you to pick yourself up by your bootstraps when it was white America that was given a pair of boots as they expected for Black Americans to walk barefoot. And please, don't think that that era in American history does not impact the racial wealth gap we experience in today's society. At the same time, Black veterans returned from the war having experienced a different world abroad. Many had fought for democracy overseas, wearing the uniform, carrying weapons, being treated with some level of respect in France, and returned with a renewed determination to demand equal rights at home. This assertiveness challenged long-standing racial hierarchies and was often met with hostility. Think about it. You just fought for America. You wore the uniform, you risked your life, and you come home to whites-only signs and lynch mobs. What would you have done? The federal government did nothing. At best, they provided little protection during this period. Local law enforcement frequently failed to intervene or actively sided with white mobs. This lack of accountability contributed to an environment where racial violence could spread with few consequences. The Red Summer must be understood within the broader context of post-war instability, economic anxiety, and systematic racism. Now, if you're starting to see how all these factors created a power keg ready to explode, make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring that notification bell, because what happened next was America at its most violent. The violence of the Red Summer was driven by multiple interconnecting factors, but racism was the center force behind them. White supremacy had been deeply embedded into American law, culture, and politics for generations. Segregation, voter suppression, and unequal access to resources were widely accepted in many parts of the country. Why is this relevant now? Because When things in the past are not corrected, it's likely that those things will manifest again in the future. For example, on November the 18th, 2025, a federal court struck down Texas's new redistricting map because a three-judge panel found substantial evidence it was drawn with racial gerrymandering to dilute the voting power of the Black and Latino communities, violating the Civil Rights Act. However, the conservatively favored U.S. Supreme Court later granted a stay, allowing the new map to be used for the 2026 election. Now, let us not forget, Texas was a Confederate state. Therefore, you can see the importance of knowing your history. Why? Because when things like this happen in modern time, they won't be new, at least not to you. Economic competition played a significant role. Black workers were often hired for industrial jobs, sometimes as strike breakers, which increased resentment from white laborers. Employers exploited racial divisions to weaken labor organizing, further fueling hostility. Instead of Black and white workers uniting against exploiting bosses, they were turned against each other. Media portrayal also contributed to unrest. Newspapers frequently published exaggerated or false stories that depicted Black Americans as criminals or instigators of violence. These narratives reinforced fear and justified aggression in the minds of many readers. Sound familiar? The media has been lying about Black Americans for over a century. Another factor was the fear of social change. The growing visibility of Black political activism, business, and community organizations challenged the existing racial order. Even peaceful efforts towards equality were sometimes portrayed as dangerous or radical. Black people opening a business, threat. Black people voting, threat. Black people defending themselves, threat. Importantly, the Red Summer was not a series of spontaneous events. In many cases, violence was organized or encouraged by local groups with little resistance from authorities. This demonstrates how racism functioned not just as individual prejudice, but as a systemic force supported by institutions. Understanding these causes help explain why the violence was so widespread and why it targeted entire communities rather than isolated individuals. One of the most well-known incidents of the Red Summer occurred in Chicago in July 1919. On July 27, 1919, a Black teenager named Eugene Williams was swimming in Lake Michigan with friends. He drifted across an unofficial segregated boundary, an invisible line in the water that white people had decided separated their beach from where the Black people were allowed. White beachgoers began throwing rocks. Eugene Williams was struck, lost consciousness, and drowned. When Black witnesses pointed out the white man responsible, the police refused to arrest him. Instead, they arrested a Black man. The violence that followed lasted several days, resulting in 38 deaths, 23 Black, 15 white, over 500 injuries, and the destruction of hundreds of Black homes. Thousands of Black families were left homeless. In Washington, D.C., racial violence erupted over several days in July 1919, as white mobs, including active duty soldiers and sailors, attacked Black neighborhoods. But here's what was different. Black residents organized to protect their communities. They armed themselves, formed patrols, and fought back, making a turning point in the resistance to racial terror. The mob expected the Black people to run. Instead, they stood their ground. In Elaine, Arkansas, violence occurred in a rural setting where black sharecroppers were organizing for fair wages through a union. In late September 1919, white mobs and federal troops attacked the union meeting, killing an estimated 100 to 240 black people, though the exact number will never be known because bodies were thrown into the Mississippi River. The response involved mass arrests and killings, with the legal system overwhelmingly targeting black residents rather than those who carried out the violence. 12 black men were sentenced to death for defending themselves. The NAACP's legal defense eventually saved them, but it took years. Similar events unfolded in dozens of other cities and towns: Omaha, Knoxville, Charleston, Longview, and more. While the details varied, a common pattern emerged. False accusations or rumors led to mob violence. Authorities failed to protect black citizens or join the mobs. Black people defended themselves. Entire communities suffered lasting harm, and white perpetrators faced no consequences. One of the most significant aspects of the Red Summer was the response of black communities. Unlike earlier periods, many black Americans refused to remain passive in the face of violence. Veterans, workers, and community leaders organized patrols, defended neighborhoods, and demanded justice. Organizations such as the NAACP played a crucial role in documenting violence, advocating for federal anti-lynching legislation, and raising public awareness. Black newspapers provided alternative narratives that challenged racist portrayals in mainstream media. A Jamaican-American poet, Claude McKay, captured this spirit in his famous poem, "If We Must Die," written during the Red Summer. If we must die, let it be not like hogs, hunted and pinned in an inglorious spot. Like men, we'll face the murderous, cowardly pack, pressed to the wall, dying, but fighting back. This resistance was not about promoting violence. It was about survival, dignity, and self-determination. It reflected a growing belief that equality would not be achieved without active participation and collective action. The courage displayed during this period laid important groundwork for later civil rights movements. It demonstrated that organized resistance could challenge injustice, even under extremely difficult circumstances. The federal government's response to the Red Summer was limited. While some investigations were conducted, few perpetrators were held accountable. Anti-lynching legislation repeatedly failed to pass Congress, reflecting the political power of segregationists and their interests. President Woodrow Wilson, the same president who resegregated the federal government, said nothing. However, the Red Summer had lasting effects. It increased national awareness of racial injustice and strengthened civil rights organizations. It also influenced cultural movements, including the Harlem Renaissance, which emphasized Black identity, creativity, and pride. For many Americans, the events of 1919 exposed the contradictions between democratic ideals and racial inequality. This awareness did not lead to immediate change, but it shaped future debates and activism. The Red Summer of 1919 remains a critical chapter in American history because it reveals how racism operates during periods of social change. It shows how fear and misinformation can lead to violence and inequality when left unchecked. Studying this history is not about assigning blame to individuals today, but about understanding systems and learning from the past. Honest education helps prevent repetition of injustice and encourages empathy and critical thinking. The Red Summer teaches us, 1. Progress towards equality often triggers violent backlash. Media narratives can incite or prevent violence. Government inaction enables racial terror. Organized resistance saves lives. Justice delayed is justice denied. Remembering the Red Summer honors those who suffered, acknowledges those who resisted injustice, and reinforces the importance of building a society rooted in fairness, dignity, and respect for all. In the summer of 1919, white mobs attacked black communities in over 30 American cities. They burned homes, destroyed businesses, and killed hundreds of people, all because black Americans dared to demand equality after fighting for democracy in World War I. But our ancestors didn't just die. They fought back. They organized, they defended their neighborhoods, and they sent a message. Never again will we be slaughtered without resistance. Your children and grandchildren need to know the Red Summer because it explains why the struggles for civil rights became more organized, more determined, and more militant in the decades that followed. Hey, if you like this story, I need you to do something right now. First, hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss these stories of violence and resistance that shaped our history. Second, like this video and share it with your family, your church, and your community. This is the history they don't teach us in school. 30 plus cities burned, and most Americans have never heard of it. Third, leave a comment. Help me teach the next generation. So, okay, answer these questions so others can learn. Had you heard of the Red Summer before watching this video? Why do you think this massive wave of racial violence isn't taught in schools? 2, how does it change your perspective knowing that black veterans came home from World War I and had to fight for their lives in American streets? What does that say about America's promise versus its reality? And 3, the Red Summer was over 100 years ago. What parallels do you see between 1919 and the racial violence today? What lessons from the Red Summer can guide us now? Fourth, and this is important, read Red Summer, the Summer of 1919 and the Awakening of Black America by Cameron McRitter. Get the complete documented history of those months when America burned. You can find this book in our complete Black History Book Library at the link in the description and in the pinned comments below. These books preserve the truth. Don't just learn the story, understand the system that allowed it. Honor those that resisted and commit to prevent it from happening again. Don't let them erase Red Summer from American history. Don't let them forget that in 1919, Black Americans stood their ground and fought back. Subscribe, share, comment your answers, and most importantly, build your Black History Library. I'll see you at the next video where we'll uncover another chapter of resistance that they tried to hide. Take care.